With charges of racism raining down on him by those who once swore they would back his bid for president, Donald Trump has something much more pressing to be concerned with: money, as in the necessary $1 billion he presumably needs to truly wage war against Hillary Clinton. But why is he so unconcerned about hitting that mark? And is the media about to make him pay for his verbal dalliances? Something else Donald and Hillary need to be worried about that's not getting a lot of attention, but it should. Two former and well-respected governors that have banded together and believe the disenfranchised and disillusioned voters want to go libertarian. Mary Madeline is here to dig into those possibilities. And Hillary Clinton can stop worrying about whether or not she has the full support of the president behind her, because not long after Bernie Sanders got the word from Mr. Obama, he gave her the words she's been waiting for. But will it make any real difference? Your phone calls, your comments, all part of the game on the only network that insists you take part at 1-877-Newsmax. I'm Ed Berliner. Welcome to the Friday Eve version of The Hardline for Thursday, June 9th, 2016.
I want to congratulate Hillary Clinton on making history as the presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Look, I know how hard this job can be. That's why I know Hillary will be so good at it. In fact, I don't think there's ever been someone so qualified to hold this office. She's got the courage, the compassion, and the heart to get the job done.
For those seeking the highest office in this land, there is nothing more important than have the torchbearer for your party get behind you and bring with it all the potential votes and all the potential money that comes with such an endorsement. But we are once again at an interesting juncture in this interesting political cycle, because Barack Obama is the torchbearer, soon to be former president, who does not have the raving love of his entire party. And the person he's pushing to take over his seat is not exactly the warmest person to ever make empty promises and bad jokes. Hillary Clinton has what she wants from Barack Obama. Bernie Sanders isn't about to stop lurking, and neither are his supporters. And the presumptive Democratic nominee has to wonder if this is the big push she needed to leave her sounding like Sally Fields accepting the Oscar many years ago, hoping that the voters like her. They really like her. Your phone calls will be part of this program as we dig into this and much more from a busy Friday Eve in politics. Start jamming the lines right now. 1-877-Newsmax. 1-877-639-7629. Be prepared, be on point, and be alert, because we all know the world definitely needs more alerts. Welcome back to The Hardline. Presidential historian, New York Times bestselling author, visiting Reagan scholar at Eureka College, and Reagan biographer Craig Shirley, joined by founder of the Zogby poll and director of the Center for Entrepreneurism at his alma mater, Lemoyne College, John Zogby. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us. John, seeing as we're dealing with numbers here and big pushes when people get endorsements, let me start with you, because Barack Obama endorses Hillary Clinton today, says, I don't think there's ever been someone so qualified to hold this office, but the question's going to be, is this a big push, and will this really help push her forward in, I guess, maybe revitalizing that image?
Well, revitalizing the image may be one thing. I mean, she's got a real problem there. And this is not an era of big pushes. We don't have the big swings like we used to after a major event like this. But the president right now is at or near in the polls where he was twice when he won. He won with 53% of the vote in 2008. He won with 52% of the vote in 2012. His approval polling is right around there, and he's the one who actually got the kinds of votes from people that appeal to Bernie Sanders. He has juice with millennials and with younger non-whites. And so this endorsement, it really does matter. Those are deficits that Hillary has.
Craig, hang tight for a moment, because John just hit a word that I want to make sure I get on him, and I'm going to ask you about it as well. John, you used the word millennials in there, which we have talked about ad nauseum here for months, about where they're going to go, even if they're going to show up at the voting booths, for that matter. Is this really, though, going to give any kind, will this drive them to get into the voting booths, to vote for Hillary Clinton? Because it just doesn't seem like anything excites them.
You know, this year it doesn't. Of course, Bernie Sanders has truly excited them. You just have to go to college campuses and see that. However, it does matter simply because Barack Obama is equally popular. He's at around 60% among those 18 to 36 years of age in terms of his popularity right now. Can anybody make them love her? No, but they can be helped along the way to be scared of Donald Trump. And so that's going to be the message more so than loving Hillary.
All right. Now, Craig, the latest Rasmussen poll, the latest Rasmussen reports, I should say, in their poll, has Hillary Clinton edging Donald Trump in the general election 42 to 38%. This push then from the president, and I want to use John's words here where he said it won't make them love Hillary, but let me go back to Sally Fields maybe a little bit, Craig. Will it at least make them like her a little more?
No, it will not make them like her. Look, Obama's endorsement comes actually at the worst possible time. She's already got the nomination in hand. If he wanted to really help her, it would have helped her before the primary process. Coming along now, all it does is reinforce that she's the candidate of the status quo. She's the candidate of the establishment in a nation in a year where everybody wants change. He represents the past. He represents, to some people, the corruption of status quo of Washington. And it just reinforces a negative, is that she cannot run as a change agent when she's being endorsed by the king of or the president of the status quo. As far as millennials go, I suppose if the Democratic Party offers them free video games, you might get them excited to go to the polls.
Wow.
But otherwise, they turned out in 2008, 2012 because it was cool, because Obama was sexy, because it was new, it was unique, it was the first African American. Is that, we've had, women politicians for many years. We haven't had a woman nominated as party, nominated for president of the United States, not since the suffrage party in the 1800s. But I don't see her eliciting any excitement whatsoever. And as far as your earlier point about her being experienced, yes, the founders said experience and character are very important in the Federalist Papers. However, experience only carries you so far. James Buchanan was one of the most experienced men to seek the presidency in 1856. He'd been an ambassador, he'd been a senator, he'd been a congressman, he'd been in the cabinet, and he was one of the worst presidents in American history. So is that this experience argument only carries so far.
1-877-Newsmax, 1-877-Newsmax for you to react to what has happened today. More about what we'll talk about, but let's get the reaction on this. Now, you mentioned Bernie Sanders. John, let me come back to you here, because Bernie Sanders has been told by the president now, thank you very much, Bernie, go away. And by the way, we do not have free video games for you as your parting gift here. But there's still the bigger question, though, here, John, and that is his supporters. They seem so vociferous at times, and they seem like they're just right on the edge of being not just attack dogs, but being somebody who goes in there and starts really creating some trouble here. What do they need to do then, and can they soften them up a little bit and bring them into the fold?
Well, Bernie may not be able to control his own supporters, or a large chunk of them, and I do think that Gary Johnson's name has to be mentioned in all of this, either as the great none of the above, or because of, for millennials anyway, that libertarian sense that he brings. But this is not going to be for them about liking or loving Hillary Clinton. It's going to be more about how much do you fear Donald Trump. Remember, over 40% of millennials, and then a higher percentage the younger you get, are non-white. And non-whites could be brought out to vote in greater numbers the more Donald Trump continues to talk about Mexican judges, and the more he talks about Muslims and building walls and things like that. This is the one that has to be reined in if the Republicans have any shot at all. They have a good fortune, the GOP, of running against Hillary Clinton. But Hillary's main fortune here is not so much that anybody's going to have warm and fuzzies about her, so much as they can be persuaded to fear Donald Trump.
More brickbats than anything else. 1-877-Newsmax. Let's get some comments here. Scott is calling in from Buffalo, New York on the hard line. Got to be a Bills fan indeed. Hey, Scott, you think the president should not have endorsed Hillary. Why?
Why? Because she's under investigation. I mean, doesn't the left care one bit about the 4 brave people that died in Benghazi? She's been lying ever since it happened. This just shows that Obama, you can be a criminal, you could be violent, or you could be a criminal. I mean, this is craziness.
All right, then let's do this.
The FBI
Craig,
is
Scott,
investigating her and everything.
Scott, you make a very good point here. I appreciate your call. Craig, let me come to you on this because he brings up the first word that people think about when they do think about Hillary Clinton, and that is Benghazi and her term as Secretary of State. So,
Sure.
Craig, does this now cast darkness, aspersions, and look back at the president and go, how can you get behind this woman? Look, we know that she's a Democrat just like you, but haven't you looked at what she's done in the last few years?
You know, I am so impressed with the quality of your callers, and it proves a point that I made the other day is that issues do count and they do penetrate down. People are paying attention. Somebody called in the other day from Maryland and made a very valid point about an issue involving Hillary. Now here's another point about an issue involving Hillary and the emails and possible indictment. People are paying attention, so I find that very interesting.
But do you think this will snap back on the president?
You know, this reminds me in some ways of 1968, Ed, and I'll tell you why, is that Bernie is in many ways Eugene McCarthy. He was the candidate of the campuses. He didn't get the nomination, and he couldn't translate his popularity to Hubert Humphrey, who is now is Hillary Clinton, the candidate of the status quo. And it was the agent of change, who, believe it or not, was Richard Nixon, who was going to end the war, had a secret plan to end the war, was going to, defend the middle class and law and order and the silent majority. Is that in many ways Donald Trump is running not as Ronald Reagan, but as Richard Nixon, and so I think we're seeing history repeat itself in some degree.
I only got a quick 30 seconds here. Bill is in Sarasota, Florida. Bill, welcome to the Hardline. Your comment, you got 30 seconds, my friend.
I think Hillary's going to take it, much to my chagrin.
Okay, why?
Got too many people on the dole, and the demographics have changed, and the moral fiber of this country is so unraveled that they don't really give a hoot whether or not she's a liar or whether or not she's a thief.
But why do you think, though, she would? Because it sounds like, by the way, first of all, are you a Trump supporter?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, then why do you think she'll beat Donald Trump if you're a Trump supporter?
Well, because everybody's scared to death of him, including his own party. He had the unmitigated goal to usurp their so-called ruling class authority and come out and just beat them all.
John, what do you think of that? I appreciate it, but we're short on time. Real quick, John, 20 seconds. What do you think about that fear of Donald?
Trump is the anti-establishment and Hillary is the establishment. He's got a real advantage there. I don't think this race is over by any stretch. But the original question was, does the Obama endorsement help at this point? And I think that it does. But there's there could be an indictment here. There could be more. There could be.
There could be a lot of
anything
things.
can happen.
And I'll tell you what, something else we got to talk about is Donald and his $1 billion, Elizabeth Warren, and a whole lot more. Gentlemen, you have a few moments. Regather your thoughts